Greetings and welcome to another edition of the Red Pill Diaries. I'm your host, Rashid, and thank you for joining us on the most powerful, informative platform, bar none, anywhere on God's green earth, and especially on social media. Again, thank you, and I hope everybody's had a blessed, happy New Year. Okay, we're going to go into some news first, but we're going to into some news in just a second. But I want to thank the people who are joining us on Odyssey and Rumble. I'm trying to work this thing out and trying to get to where I can manage all of this at one time. And so you guys got to bear with me. I'm teaching myself. My son is teaching me how to work these things. So please bear with you, brother. Okay, don't be mad at me. Charge it to my head and not to my heart. Okay. We're gonna talk about a lot of information today, and I know that there's a lot of things going on right now. What is going on here? Okay. All right, hold on. Let's see this. Okay. There's a lot of things going on in the news, and we're going to address a lot of things from the Middle East, Asia, the Ukrainian, Russian, NATO situation. We're going to get all of that, and we're going to try to do it in a short period of time. Shout out to Mehdi, shout out to Joel, shout out to Holly, and shout out to Pedro. I know Pedro said that he'll be in the bed. It's like I think he said it's like 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock UK time, and he'll catch the rerun. I want to thank each and every one of you all for giving me your time. Okay, seriously, from the bottom of my heart, thank you all. Now, I want to address a few things that is going on in Africa. Okay, and it'll be tied to the constant belligerence of U.S. empire and Western intransigence. On the one hand, the West would have us believe that Africa, Latin America, the Balkans, and Asia is incapable of self-governance. Savagery, corruption, run amok, poverty everywhere. Okay, they would have you to believe that that is the case, which in some areas that is the case, but it is brought to you by the empire of chaos. Everywhere that you see dissatisfaction, that you see warring, ethnic strife, the West has a hand in it because they are the greater beneficiaries of the Great Divide and the suffering of the masses. If you don't believe it, all you have to do is turn to America and look at how the elite are prospering off the divide, the ignorance, the racism, the everything about the masses of the people, and they continue to push that so that they can continue to maintain control. If you look to the UK, you see that. You look all across Europe, you see that, because the elite has an interest in tensions. It has an interest in poverty. I know you might say, huh? Yeah, it has an interest in poverty. It has an interest in the divisiveness of different segments of the culture, because if you are divided, guess what? You can't mount up enough support to challenge their rule, challenge their policy. And hasn't that been the case? Right? So I want to talk to you a minute about the narrative of the corruption, the narrative of savagery and not being civilized and being referred to as a third world nation, because this is going to be connected to all of this stuff that is going on around the world. So you know we have to lay the base. I want to go to an article that came out, I think on the 12th, no, the 27th of last month. Okay. And this article is titled U.S. Company Del Monte. You know, the fruit company where you, the canned fruit, the canned corn, the canned sweet peas, all of that stuff. Del Monte sued. They have been sued for a massacre of locals in Kenya. Right? Now, here's the kicker. If you look to Latin America, what is the banana company? They were sued because they were killing people over bananas and the drugs they were pushing. If you look to the same banana, Chiquita banana, that's what it is, and Del Monte and all of these international corporations, they have been doing this in Africa, Latin America, and on the down low in Asia. So let's look at this a little bit. The article it says, security guards at a Del Monte pineapple farm near the Kenyan capital of Nairobi are accused of brutally attacking and killing people suspected of trespassing the farm's land in recent years. Earlier this year, Kenyan police launched an investigation into 4 murders of local villagers involving Del Monte security guards. Now, what's the significance about this? You say, well, that's talking about America. Okay, but when we go to in Mali, the French military was accused of a massacre. They killed so many of the people that were protesting against the French presence, the French military presence there. They didn't even worry about burying the people deep in the ground. They just piled dirt over by the military base. Nobody talks about that, right? We're screaming about the deaths in Ukraine, which we should be, because of the empire and its insatiable desire to dominate and control everybody at all costs. That we overlook these things in Africa and Latin America and Asia. And all of them are tied together. Remember what Martin Luther King says, an injustice to one is an injustice to all, right? That is applicable right here. And it goes further and it says, the African Center for Corrective and Preventive Action on Wednesday filed a lawsuit in Kenya High Court against Del Monte. Now, I want to stop right there for a minute, because as I was reading it brought something back to mind about the UK. In Africa, they were going to bring the UK's troops up on charges of rape and murder also. And then the UK says that, I forget which African country, it could be Kenya. It says that no African court has jurisdiction over British military. I want you to think of the arrogance of that, okay? So you're telling me no African court has jurisdiction over its own territory and what happens in its own territory? And yet you have a ICC that is in a former colonial nation that puts out arrest warrants on African, Latin American, and Asian nations, not one from the Western world except for Slobodan Milosevic, because he had been made an enemy by the West. Okay? What do you not see? This is insanity. But this is the policy of Western hegemony, the policy of racism and fascism. I am and there is none other. Remember, I told you that America and the UK, they mirror back Nebuchadnezzar and Belshazzar. Look what my hands have wrought. I can bring you before court because I have the military muscle, the political wherewithal, and the economics to crush you and bring you before our jurisdiction. But how dare you try to hold that same standard up to us? It's insanity. This is racism at its core. Okay? Now, let's go. Let me read. We're back to, hold on one second. Let me pull it up. Also, here's something else that you need to know before I let this slip out of my mind. Think about this. The United States, Great Britain, and all of the European or NATO nations have been screaming to the top of their lungs about Wagner, the Russian military unit, or the private mercenary group, as they call it, of Wagner. I bet you have not heard anything in the news about 2 major U.S. Mercenary groups that are being deployed all across Africa. Guess what? Against the will of the African people and the African governments. Because they say that it is in the interest of American and Western policies, because they want to beat back China's influence. They want to beat back Russia's influence. Well, why is that of your interest if the African nations and those African people choose to do business with Russia and China? How is your national interest going to supersede the very nation that is doing business with them? Do you guys ever wonder that? When they say, like the French president Macron said, when Niger and Burkina Faso were screaming that they were tired of French colonialism, and they wanted not just independence in word, they wanted economically, they wanted politically, and they wanted it militarily. And Macron says that we will defend our interests in Burkina Faso. Man, let me put this water down for a minute. Listen to what I just said to you all. The French president told the people and the military and the political structure of Burkina Faso and Niger that we will defend our interests in your nations. Do you see it? Are you getting it? So the people of Burkina Faso, of Mali, of Niger have no say or no right on their interests in their nation with their resources. And French needs supersedes the needs of the indigenous people there in the eyes of Macron and the elite. This is the theme of the Western world. They just slap something on our interests. Iran is being belligerent in the Persian Gulf, and we will defend our interests. First of all, Iran is Persia. Let's get that right. Before it was ever called Iran, it was Persia. Right? Now, if Iran is defending its rights in the Persian Gulf, what is it to you 10,000 miles away? Huh? I'm asking. This has an air of arrogance and imperial hubris to the levels not seen before. We will defend our rights in Iraq, even as the Iraqi people have demanded day after day after day for American, British, and Western troops to leave. We're going to defend our interests there. Ignoring the will of the people. I thought we were about democracy. In democracy, the will of the people, according to the West. Well, how can we ignore democracy in the Middle East and in Africa and in Latin America and in Asia, and then we want to focus on imposing democracy in Ukraine? Make that one make sense. Huh? So I see the chat is jumping, and keep the chat jumping too. But I want to go to something. So the United States, France, the UK, they're all deploying sweeper groups. I call them sweeper groups because they're there to destabilize, threaten, bribe, overthrow, and eventually, if you don't bow, assassinate the leaders of those nations. They're all being deployed there. You haven't heard one peep from the Washington Post, the New York Times, none of these organizations. But while Wagner was over there helping to secure the legitimate governments over there, all you heard was the mercenary group of Wagner because it's Russia. And Russia was trying to aid the military and the leadership of these nations and help them and prevent them from being assassinated or overthrown by the United States in the West. But you haven't heard a peep of this. And someone has to ask the question, if this is the case, and if what Rashid is saying on this platform is the truth, then why aren't any news outlets mentioning it, much less covering it? Day in and day out, Ukraine. But not one peep of the United States illegally, and the UK illegally, and France illegally, and Germany, and Canada, and Australia. I want to name a few more of those, and a couple more of the NATO nations. When NATO wants to do something very covertly, what they do, instead of saying this is a NATO project, they send the nations individually, okay? But all of them wind up in the same areas. But they say that this is Britain is deploying a couple of troops here. France is deploying a couple of troops here. The United States is deploying a couple of troops there. Okay, aren't these members of NATO? So if these nations are all deploying here, and all of them have a binding, a legal instrument that binds them to come to one's defense if they're attacked, shouldn't we call it like it is and say NATO is deploying there? NATO is doing that? See, they want to minimize your suspicion and your outrage by saying America or Great Britain. When we look at what just happened in Niger, before this happened in Niger, most of you didn't even know that there were French troops there, German troops there, U.S. troops there, Italian troops there, and a couple other nations' troops there. But aren't all of those troops members of NATO? So if they are members of NATO and all of them have military bases there, then what is this operation that they're carrying out? A NATO operation, is that not right? But hey, who am I to say? I'm just using common sense, and common sense is not so common today. All right, so let's go as I talk to you about these mercenary organizations that are now just, I mean, they're all over the Middle East and they're all over Africa now. They're trying to destabilize, because remember what Joseph Borrell said. Matter of fact, let me see if I still have this on here. I might have deleted it. Ha ha ha. Yeah, I got it right here. So in the context of what I'm telling you, right? Remember what Sergei Lavrov said, that that some European nations personally told him, okay? The foreign minister of the Russian Federation said that European nations, the leaders, approached him and told him Russia needs to get out of our Africa. We own that. Guess what? Not one European leader even denied it when Sergei Lavrov said it. Matter of fact, hold on one second. Give me a second. RT Lavrov says EU says Africa is theirs. Let me see if this will come up. Hold on one second. Here it is. See, I'm gonna tell you the words I put in. I did this live on the air, just talking to you guys, so you know I'm not lying. I put in these words right here. RT Lavrov says EU says Africa is theirs. That's what I put in. Google, and then 1, 2, 3, 4 from the top. It popped. You'll see it. And the article is on RT. It was released September the 25th, 2021. And this is what Lavrov had to say. The title of the article is Lavrov says EU foreign policy head. You know who he's talking about? Joseph Borrell, Mr. Gardner himself. Lavrov says EU foreign policy head told him to stay out of our Africa. Our Africa. That's what he said. As he denies Moscow's role in mercenaries invited to Mali. Now, as long as the U.S., France, and everybody else put mercenaries and special operation troops across Africa, that's justified. But when the African nations themselves request the aid of Iran, Russia, North Korea, and China to come help train them and empower them with weapons so that they can defend their territory and the sovereignty and the interests of their own people and nation, then it becomes a problem for the West. Why? Because they want to milk Africa, because they always thought of Africa as their mammary gland. Okay? I want you to listen to this. All right? All this is going to be connected. Y'all give me a little time. You know how we do it. It says, with the terrorist fighting government of Mali in talks with a private Russian military firm, EU foreign policy chief Joseph Borrell, I told you, told Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov to bluntly stay out of Africa, allegedly calling it ours. So now, with that in your mind, and we just heard that, now let's go to listen to what he called Europe and called everybody else a jungle. And this is what he says of Europe. All right, we go back to this because this is very important that we look at this like this. Check it out.
Yes, Europe is a garden. We have built a garden. Everything works. It's the best combination of political freedom, economic prosperity, and social cohesion that the humankind has been able to build. There's three things together. And here, Bruges is maybe the good representation of beautiful things, intellectual life, well-being. The rest of the world, and you know very well, Federica, is not exactly a garden. The rest of the world, most of the rest of the world is the jungle. And the jungle could invade the garden. And the gardeners should take care of it.
Is that not racist? Check it. Almost all of the energy now, especially now that Russia has been sanctioned, even though they're still getting a lot of energy from Russia. As the sanctions gripped Europe, guess where they went to first? They went to the so-called jungle, Africa, to try to bribe leaders to see if they could jump the line and buy more oil and gas from the African nations. Why? Because the garden has little to no resources. Let me say that again. The garden has little to no resources. The one plus for the garden, which they thought that they were going to get, was Ukraine, because in parts of Ukraine, the part that is closer to Russia, it had a lot of black soil, that good earth to farm. It had they just found out that it had a nice amount of oil and gas reserves off the coast of Crimea. The United States, Great Britain, they wanted to tap that. Okay. All right. So I'm reading. Let's see. Oh my God, Perseverance Chameleon is in the building. Maddie, I'm gonna highlight you in just a second. I see something that you just said. Hold on one second there. I want to get this thought across. It says, now we just heard about what Joseph Borrell just said. We just heard about what Sergei Lavrov said that they told him. Right. Now, what's interesting about this is that for the last couple weeks or months, the United States had been pressuring Uganda. And I want to emphasize something about Uganda right now before we go further. The United States has biolabs in Uganda right now where they are testing Ebola and all of these other, you know how they had in Ukraine, they have them in Africa. They have them all over Northern Africa, some of them without the knowledge of the leadership of the African nations. This is no lie. You can Google this. Okay. If America is so hell-bent on researching cures, why don't she bring those biolabs within her own borders and research them within her own lands? There must be something fishy to this when you want to set up biolabs, warfare labs I'm talking about, to study the genetic makeup of different ethnic groups and stuff, and then use these diseases to see what it'll do to these people. Man, you're crazy and evil as hell to even think about something like that, because you may be attempting something and you may unleash something that you can't put back in the bottle. Okay? People's lives are not games. Just to let you know that. So, in this thing about Uganda, the Ugandan president stood firm against allowing the U.S. to do what it wanted to do and to impose the gay rights and the I can be in the gender I want to be. Uganda said, no, you ain't bringing that in. No. You keep that aid. No, a man is a man and a woman is a woman. And a family, a natural family, is X, Y, and Z. So keep whatever you're trying to bribe us with, but these are our values. And no matter how much you try to say that this is an ice cream cone you're giving us, we know that it's an ice cream cone indeed. But what is on the ice cream cone is not ice cream. It's body excrement with sprinkles on it. And we don't want that. Okay? So now the United States has formally removed Uganda from the AGOA trade program. You know, America, she gets mad when you don't do what she says, right? She gets mad, and then she tries to destroy you then. What it says, the African Development and Opportunity Act, or AGOA, passed in 2000 under the then U.S. President Bill Clinton and renewed for 10 years by Barack Obama in 2015. Is designed to provide financial help for eligible sub-Saharan African countries that do not undermine, listen to this part, And if you don't think that this is about bribing and dominating and just having a complete command and control over everybody, listen to the last sentence. Matter of fact, I'm gonna read it all over, and I want you to have this as you digest what I'm about to say. Remember the last sentence in this, okay? Because it's very important. The African Development and Opportunity Act, or AGOA, passed in 2000 under then U.S. President Bill Clinton and renewed for 10 years by Barack Obama in 2015. It's designed, what is this designation? To provide financial help for eligible, quote unquote, eligible sub-Saharan African countries, listen to this part, that do not undermine U.S. national security or foreign policy objectives. Man, that's a mouthful, isn't it? So as long as you bend over and take it, I'm going to give you crumbs. But if you dare try to assert your sovereignty or the will of the people or try to be a real leader, we're going to yank the strings of aid from you because this is a bribe anyhow. I want to go to something real quick as we're talking. All right? All right, let's see. Give me a second. Hold on 1 second. All right, there we go. All right. Okay. According to the dictionary, the word designed is an adjective. And it means planned or conceived in detail or for a specific purpose. Let me read that again, okay? Because when I read this again, we're going to go back to that sentence again, and then that'll give you an understanding of the true motives and the underlying moves that America has on these nations, okay? And it's not just Uganda. It's across Europe. It's across Africa. It's across Latin America. It's across Asia. America wants to be the God, right? She wants to be the God. Again, I point back to something before I address this. For the people who are Christians and the people who are Muslims, we know that according to both scriptures, the Bible and the Holy Quran, that God made man in his image and his what? And his likeness, right? He made him in his image and his likeness. All right? So, what is America doing in Africa? Bribing nations and threatening it. She's trying to mold the government to the likings of America. What is she doing in Latin America? Trying to force and mold those nations into the image of America. What is she doing in Europe? The same thing. What is she doing in Asia? What she says, we want a prosperous, democratic nation. Is that not right? She's trying to mold them and shape them. She's trying to be the potter. And she's trying to take these earthen vessels, these clay nations, and mold them into America's liking. Isn't that what God did? Huh? And if you don't bow to that, guess what happens? America's wrath comes, right? If you don't bow to what the precepts, the concepts, the statutes, the laws, and the purpose and aims of what God had ascribed for you to do, what happens after that? Judgment, right? Right? What happens? The wrath of God, right? America is trying to do the same thing. What did Satan say? I will build me a kingdom like unto the Most High. Is that not right? I'm not making this stuff up. Listen to this. The word designed, which is a past tense of design, is an adjective. Planned or conceived, right? In detail, or for a specific purpose. Now let's go back. Okay, give me 1 second. Let me go back. Where are we at? Okay, there we are. The African Development and Opportunity Act, or AGOA, passed in 2000 under then U.S. President Bill Clinton and renewed for 10 years by Barack Obama in 2015. It's designed to provide financial help for eligible sub-Saharan African countries that do not undermine U.S. national security or foreign policy objectives. Now, here's the kicker. What national interest does the United States have in those nations that is more important and that supersedes those nations themselves? I'm asking. And what foreign policy objectives can be so paramount as to ignore the will of those people and the government of those people and the territorial integrity and the national sovereignty of those nations? I'm asking. So America being petty because the Ugandan government wouldn't bow to the array of the gay parade and all of this other stuff. And I'm not anti this and anti that. I'm just telling you what's happening. And because they designated that a man is a man and a woman is a woman, the United States, in its mad dash to mold everybody into this insane neoliberal way of, I wouldn't say life, because the way that they're teaching people to live is nothing but death. So this way of death, where a man can compete with a woman in a woman's game. You got the advantage. You got the physical strength. Where a man can feel, oh, I'm a woman today, and go in and push a woman off a toilet seat in a woman's bathroom and say, I'm a woman today, or I'm a fish today. Or, man, these people have lost their mind. They're lunatics. Okay? And now they're petty, going after nations that, what? Because Uganda wouldn't bow to American dictates, because these were thought out policies that they tried to impose on Uganda. It became an issue of undermining U.S. national security and her foreign policy objectives, which was to make everybody unisex, insane, and outrageous. Man, I'm telling you, it's crazy. These people are crazy. It's I don't know what, buddy. And I'm just keeping it 100 with y'all. I'm keeping it real. Let's see. Go to the chat real quick, and I'll finish. And we'll connect some more stuff. Let's see. Let me scroll back up. This thing is, the chat is jumping. Hold on one second. I'll go down. The chat is jumping up. Medi says, I am, sir. 2024 is going to be our year. It's already our year. When you bag truth and you love truth, truth's going to always prevail. I don't care how slow the start is. I don't care how slow the start is. Once truth gets rolling, it will roll over and through any and everything that's an obstacle for its establishment. So if you are a believer in the truth and you embrace the truth, guess what? You already won. Even before it happens, you've already won. You can close your eyes and never wake up, and guess what? You are still the winner. All right? That's how that goes. All right, Medi says this. The one thing I hope people wake up to is that the same Washington, D.C. establishment that lied to them about Ukraine and Russia are the same people telling us China is a threat. Man, not only that, these people, what I'm trying to tell the people, and I think a lot of people can't handle this and they get upset with me because I'm in your face with it, but that's because I love the truth and I love anybody who wants to hear the truth. And you know how sometimes your mom can be, if you're a teenager, and yeah, I'm decades away from a teenager, but what I'm just saying is when your mom used to be in your face and you're like, oh man, my mom is tripping over here, but she was in your face because she loved you and she was trying to stop you from making those mistakes that she saw other people make or maybe she made before. And so she's all in your face and it's overbearing a little bit. But it's not out of hatred, it's out of love. And that's how I am. I'm sometimes brash, but I'm straightforward. And a lot of people can't take that. And what I try to tell the people is this. When they say, well, you got to get in the system to change it. And I say, Name me one person that got in the system and changed the system. And while you're doing that, we'll go and we'll look at all the people that the system changed that said that they were coming to change the system. Right? See, what people forget is systems that don't spring up. They pop out of people's minds. Right? And these people have set up a system that is anti-independence, anti-freedom, anti-justice and equality, and pro-looting of the masses. If I can keep you ignorant, then I can exploit you. If I can give you an enemy to look at, then I can control you. And if I can do those things, I can have you so preoccupied where I don't have to worry about you challenging my rule. That's what they're doing. All right, let's go. Let's go. Holly, salute to you. That's my girl too. Holly, salute. Let's see. CC is in the chat. CC, how's it going? I made it says this. Let me put this up here because this is very important too. What is he saying? BRICS is getting stronger and stronger. And check this out. So this week, I think the admission of a few more BRICS nations is happening or has happened. And Argentina, one of the prime nations that was ready to join, says that they won't join the BRICS because now they have a new president who is a U.S. stooge, a Western stooge, right? And he's saying that we're not going to join BRICS. We're gonna reorient our foreign policy and our national policy around democratic, free nations of the United States and European nations, right? Now he said that, right? And then he started screaming when China said, "Whoa, okay, you have that right. You definitely have that right, and we will not infringe upon your independent policies and your independent rights. But we also have a right. We've invested heavily in you, and we know that you need this access to, I think it's billions of yuan to keep from defaulting. So if that's the way you want to go, we won't stop you. But don't think that you're going to rely on these yuans to help you go that way. And since you want to reorient your country and your policy to the U.S., tell them to give you the loan." And all of a sudden, he starts talking about, well, we're not trying to alienate China. We're going to try to work out a loan. No, if America is so, in the West is so freedom-loving and based on equality, tell them to give you that interest-free loan that China was giving. Huh? Tell them, hey, listen, I'm reorienting my policy towards you guys. You know we're in a pickle economically, and if we don't get this aid, if we don't get this, then we'll collapse because we'll default again, and this default will hurt us in such a way which we may not be able to recover for decades. So if you want us to reorient, we're not asking for a loan. We're asking for you guys to do what was right, because a lot of the debt we incurred because of these corrupt contracts that y'all imposed upon us. But they don't do that. He is now trying to talk the Chinese into help funding. I'm telling you, these people are insane. He is trying to talk to the Chinese for the Chinese to continue to extend that loan so that that loan could be used to further entrench the United States in Argentina and to help Argentina reorient towards the West. Isn't that lunatic? To think somebody was going to do that? Huh? These people are insane. I keep telling you, only in Bizarro world. Only in Bizarro world. Where up is down and down is up, in is out and out is in. And as Joel Bradford so pointedly put up here, when he's talking about the world, rules for thee, not for me. Specifically and especially when it comes to America and the UK. Rules for thee, Now, I want you to think about this. Just a few days ago, Belgorod, the region bordering Ukraine, and I got to put a little blame on Russia for this, though. I do. And I'm going to tell you why in a second. But let me go with this thought here. A few days ago, there was a massive attack on Belgorod, where a few civilians lost their lives. There was some damage to some property, and I think 100 and some people were injured on drone and rocket attacks from Ukraine into Russia. Now, why is this important? And why do I say I got to blame Russia? Because remember, Dmitry Medvedev, right? The former Russian president, former Russian prime minister, and current co-chair or vice president of the Russian Federation's National Security Council, openly stated prior to the delivery of U.S. rockets to Ukraine that if those rockets were used to target Russia proper, then Russia would immediately respond to Ukraine and those who armed them. You understand? Have they responded militarily to NATO? No. Am I advocating war? No. But if you speak something, listen to me, I don't think people understand this. So I'm gonna say this. I say it often on the show. You can't cower America just by talking. You understand me? Just by saying what you're gonna do, America say, okay, you say that, all right. Well then we're gonna show them. And then what they'll do, they'll go and give a couple weapons, and they'll see your reaction. And then if your reaction is mute or docile, they'll up the level, up the ante. And then they'll up it more, and they'll up it more, and they'll up it more. Because they feel that the threshold for you retaliating has diminished in such a way that they no longer fear reprisal. So now, had Russia responded, and Russia openly said that we called an emergency meeting to the United Nations Security Council, and we demand and request that the Czech ambassador be present. And the ambassador said, man, I'm not going there. See, this is what they do to Russia. I'm not going there. Russia said, we have evidence that you supplied the weapons. And I'm not going there. When you pull out of Ukraine and you do this, here's the stipulations for me to come there. Because they're hiding behind America. They're hiding behind Great Britain and France. They know that the West is telling them, man, ignore Russia. Russia's not going to do nothing. Now, am I advocating violence? No. So I'm going to say this in a way that the censors won't come at me. Now, if someone were to throw rocks in my house, and I warned them, man, don't break these panes of glass, and they throw it, I might say, you know what? Let me call the cops here. And the cops come, and the cops do nothing. Okay? And then they're out there laughing. And then I say, now from this point on, there will be a response from whoever throw rocks through my window or shoot pellets or BBs through my window. There will be a response, a major response. Now, say for instance, I'm talking to Holly, and Mehdi throws a brick through my window, and I don't respond. Guess what happens? The people watch that all around, and they start measuring you by what you said, and then the actions that either came or didn't come after what you said. So, but what if I'm talking to Holly, and Mehdi throws a rock through my window, a brick, and before Mehdi could retreat down the street, I'm on his behind with a baseball bat beating the brakes off of him. Do you think that the other people watching will then have the nerve to throw rocks through my window? Because everybody watching will see the consequences of what throwing rocks through my window will be. You understand? But Russia allowed for these people to continue to throw rocks through the window. And you cannot allow a bully any leeway. America and the West knows one language. And Russia keeps saying that we keep talking to the West, and they act like they don't understand. They don't. You're speaking, and I'm not talking about Russian and they're speaking English. No. You're speaking the language of let's negotiate a settlement that's beneficial to both you and I. And the empires hearing it, and all that's coming to the empire. And as America continues to show you through her actions, she's speaking, I'm not stopping till I balkanize you. I'm not stopping until I win. I'm not stopping until my policy objectives are met. If Russia continues to hear that other message, in the long run, Russia would lose. So Russia has to learn the language of the belligerent and deal with what comes after that. You understand? Anybody that are parents there have often taught your kids to never to be aggressive. But if your children are in a position where they cannot avoid confrontation, to fight like hell to defend their security, right? That's what I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. But I'm applying it to a country. Mehdi says preach. That's all I'm saying. Let's go here. Yeah. Oh, Holly. I got to put this up there. Holly says, incredible. UK says Africa has no jurisdiction over their own land. They said that. Hold on 1 second. Let me see something real quick. Ready? Let me see if I can find something real quick. Oh, why did I just do that? All right, let's see. See if I can pull this. See if I can pull it up. I might have put in the wrong word. RT. Let's see. UK government. Hold on, everybody. Over UK troops. Let's see if I can put that up. All right, let's see. All right, here we go. Oh, I put it up. I was able to find it. Let me go back and put in keywords. First of all, let me see if this is the one. I think this is it. We're going to read it anyhow because it has something to do with what Holly just said. But let me tell you the keywords I put in. See, I always share this stuff with you all so it'll be easier for you all to find this stuff too. I don't want to just hoard the information because what use is it? If all of us can't benefit, what's the use for it? All right. So I put in RT-UK government says African court has no jurisdiction over UK soldiers, UK troops. I'm sorry. All right. And the second thing that popped up, it was from RT International. And it says, Kenya to investigate alleged UK army crimes. All right. Now, isn't that something? Because Del Monte in Kenya is under investigation for crimes too. See what I mean? It says the British government mistreats the African country's residents and does not view them as equals, locals have claimed to RT. Kenyan authorities have launched an investigation into the operation of the British Army Training Unit in Kenya. It's called BATUK, one of the UK's largest military training centers abroad, which has a long-standing negative reputation in the East African country. Well, if the people don't want them there, and it has a long-standing negative reputation in that country, then why the hell is it still there? Let's go further. The move by the National Assembly Defense, Intelligence, and Foreign Relations Committee follows complaints by residents, including over the murder of a woman, Agnes Wajiru, in Nanyuki in 2012, and a fire that razed the Lodega Hills Ranch in 2021, both of which have been blamed on British soldiers. Anthony Thierry Wambui, Deputy Speaker of the Lapika County Assembly, told RT that he supports the government's decision. When Agnes Wajiru was killed by the British Army, even after the media visited this area and the case was filed, family members are seeking justice. Let's see. It talks about, it's the video. It's the, instead of all of the comment, it's the video up here also. So please Google that and look at that. But it talks about how the British says that those courts don't have any jurisdiction over British soldiers, which is crazy, right? It's right. You have to listen. I want you to go back to some up here. See, I read very well. I comprehend what is being said to me. And I want to go back to something up at the top. It says, one of the UK's largest military centers abroad. So now, the UK has a training center, which is one of the largest, if not the largest, outside of the UK in Kenya, at the behest and the benevolence of the Kenyan authorities. And Kenyan police are investigating crimes that are constantly committed by British forces that are taking place on Kenyan territory. And the British government says that Kenya has no jurisdiction. Man, I tell you what. Man, this is crazy, right? This is why in Iraq, let me hip y'all to something. When America went into Iraq and forced change the governments, and they installed people who would be more compliant to U.S. dictates. Did you know that the U.S. forced the Iraqi government to write up a proposal that will allow for diplomatic or immunity for U.S. troops in the crimes committed in Iraq? You know that? Did you know that? How's that for democracy? How's that for equality and freedom and justice? How's that for international law? Mehdi says, Saudi Arabia officially in BRICS shifts the balance. Well, listen, the balance was shifted anyhow. Long before Saudi Arabia officially was admitted into the BRICS, they did start accepting the yuan in reference to purchasing oil and petrol products. That was major. Nobody really talks about that. That was groundbreaking. Why? Because since the 70s, no other currency had been accepted for that except the greenback. Well, not the greenback, the US dollar. A lot of people say the greenback, but the greenback was a different currency than the US dollar. Okay? So, it's just been made official. All right? Let's see. Perseverance Community says, salute to everyone. Happy New Year. Happy New Year to you too. Mehdi goes and says, exactly. How can you export democracy? It must be happen naturally, not by force from an outside entity. Now, it goes back to something that I said. Okay. Let's go back to something that I said to you all on a previous show. If I'm driving a Brinks truck, and I'm a butcher what I said earlier. If I'm driving a Brinks truck, right, and this Brinks truck is full of money, and I pull into the neighborhood that is just poverty infested, all right, and I see all the money. Y'all see all the money, and I say, hey, This is my money. Here, look, I prove this is my money right here. Y'all just go in there and get what you need so that you can pay off your bills and live a life of luxury. Do you think that I would have to get a gun to force anybody to go in that Brinks truck? Do you think that I would have to force anybody to take those stacks of hundreds? Why? Because the people who were living in abject poverty understood that to have that money would help them out of the situation that they were in. So they would willingly and willfully embrace that, right? So if democracy like the United States and Europe and the UK continue to advocate, if it is so great, then why do they have to go around the world forcing it upon the people through the barrel of a gun? I'm asking. If that democracy that they want to give to everybody is so good, all they have to do is live by it and people will see the example and then they'll imitate it. You don't have to put a gun up to my head and say, hey, go into that Brinks truck and get you $300,000 so that you can buy you a home. Man, you're living out on the streets. Common sense tells you this guy's giving away money. It must be a blessing from God because I need this money. No strings attached. I got to go get this money so that I can make a better way for my family. This is what I'm saying to you. People don't analyze this like this. If the democracy is so good that they're offering, then why the hell do they have to set up bases around the world, send out NGOs to bribe people and foment color revolutions and overthrow of governments? If what they are offering is good, the people will embrace it. I'm asking. Let's go. Holly says, but NATO is defensive, right? Serbia, Libya. No. Let's go back. You say Serbia. Let's say Yugoslavia. Okay. Oh, what's going on with the mouse now? Man, come on. Don't do me like that. Remember, NATO bombed Yugoslavia. Balkanized Yugoslavia into what, like 7 or 8 countries? Because they wanted to get rid of Slobodan Milosevic. This was a European country. They bombed it into the Stone Age. Broke it up into like it was in the Stone Age. They went into Libya. Look at the democracy that they brought to Syria, the 1/3 of Syria, where it's a festering ball of nothing but terrorists that the United States train, arm, finance, and protect. Look at the democracy that they brought to Iraq, Somalia, Yemen. And then they want to scream about the Yemeni armed forces fighting. Hell, look what you brought to us. Man, we're trying to get rid of this and we're trying to get you from over here because all it has brought is death and destruction. That fourth horse of the apocalypse, where death and famine and destruction followed it. That's America. That's the Western world. And then they want you to believe. They say, don't believe your lying eyes. Don't believe your hungry stomach. Don't believe your destroyed country, your assassinated leaders, your murdered citizens. Believe what we say to you. But surely our efforts are benign. Of course, we're not trying to kill you or force our way on you as we put more military bases there. Remember that, as I told you, that the United States state of Washington State is pretty much the exact size of the Syrian Arab Republic. And the United States has at least twice as many military bases, illegally, I might add, in Syria than she has in the state of Washington. Make that make sense? Make that make sense? Betty says, U.S. contracted security forces operated in Iraq and Afghanistan as well, as, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, they have. But listen, they changed the name. And they split up into multiple mercenary groups. They have it's a new one on the horizon now. What they do, they play musical chairs with those mercenary groups. And do you know, like companies like Del Monte and Chiquita, do you know they have their own military wing? A lot of people don't know that. They have their own armed security in these nations. You didn't know that, and it's all about democracy, and it's all about trade, and it's all about a fair, a level playing field. That's what they tell you, right? But what are they showing us? Everything to the opposite. So where are we living in? Bizarro world, right? That's all I'm saying. Let's go further. Perseverance Chameleon says, let me see if what is going on with this? Now, I just bought a new, listen, before I did this show, I just went up to like this store called Roses and bought new mouse, wireless mice, mouse, whatever you want to call it. I don't know the correct term for the computer mouse, but anyway, when you got two of them, but anyway, bought them for the computers, and they were working properly, and now they're acting crazy. Let's see right here. Let me see. The garden is actually a desert. You better believe that. You better believe that. Let's see. Yeah. Let me see if I can highlight this one right here. Here it is right here. Here's something I want you to understand something. There's not just some truth in what you said. What you said is absolute truth. But here's something else that goes with that. Perseverance Chameleon. He says they're trying to create bioweapons against the African people. Yes, but here's something. They were also in Ukraine testing genetic specific viruses in the resistance of Slavic people, meaning Serbia, Russian, Belarusian, Ukrainian. They were in there using samples of Ukrainians' DNA to try to make specific viruses for these people, like that would like cause autoimmune diseases or shut down their respiratory system. All of this stuff. Russia has documented all of that. And then Russia came right out and said that they have bioweapons across Africa that are doing the exact same thing, and in Latin America. Hold on for a second. Do you remember the Chinese, when that virus came out, said the exact same thing? You remember the Chinese foreign minister even was on video stating who came out with that thing that paralyzed the world for in 2020. You know what I'm talking about. The thing that I got suspended off YouTube for a dozen times for saying that illness. It's crazy. So let's see. It says, let me see if I can go down a little bit. Facts, Medi. Also, tomorrow, if I get a chance to, we're gonna do a live, but I'm hoping I will, but I'm pressed for time because I got to do a show. I got to do a video for the patrons, and then sometimes I got to do a video for the channel members also. So I'm just getting over that flu that I had and all of that stuff. Oh, and let me tell you a story before we go a little further, okay? Let me tell you guys a little story that's off base from what we're talking about, okay? So all of you know that, I've studied martial arts most of my life, right? So my son and I, we're going at it. He's about 20. So we're going back and forth. We like to spar each other. And I'm trying to teach him getting faster. I'm trying to teach him how to deal with certain things. And we were going at it. And we were having a good time. And so I had plans to do a show yesterday, right? I was recuperating and I was feeling good. And I started getting a little sick again. And so, I believe it was yesterday. And so all of a sudden, my back started hurting, my arms started hurting, my legs started hurting. And Rashid is telling, man, I keep telling you, you can't compete with these young boys. You better sit down. And I started feeling all of the pains and all of the nooks. I even have a heating patch on my back on this side and down here. Listen, when you reach a certain age and you get older, you will feel it, But it's all in fun to try to keep yourself in shape and you know and to spend time and do certain things that your kids will remember long after you're gone. You know, I just want to share that with you all to let you know I am human just like you all. I'm not a AI, you know, and that things like that happen. I mean, I was hurting, boy. I was really hurting. And my sister told, "Why you need to sit your old tail down somewhere?" My sister, oh my God, my sister is a trip. But anyway, let's see. I thought I'd just share that with you all. Let's see. This is. It is all about influence and who controls what resources in the Washington, D.C. establishment. I believe so. Shout out to Incognito. I didn't even see you down there. I'm sorry. I didn't see you. But this is Mehdi right here. It is all about influence and who controls what resources in the Washington, D.C. establishment. You know what? More than, yeah, that's true. And it goes along with what I'm about to say here. Again, let's go back to something. When you have ruled without rival for so long, and you've been able to eat the spoils of not only your labor, but of all of the other nations who become your junior partners or your submissive slaves, you become inebriated on yourself and you start thinking that you are the exception to the rule. That's why American leaders keep talking about America must rule, America must lead. They are exceptional. That exceptional city that sitteth upon the hill. That's what they believe. And so sometimes it is more than just about the oil. Sometimes it's a little bit more than just about the gold or the silver. Or sometimes it's more than just winning one political battle against your adversaries. Sometimes it's an addiction to the high. You know, you have a high. It's like a drug high. And every time you get in these positions, those endorphins kick in and you start feeling a certain way. That's what it's about with the leadership. Being able to force your will, your policy, your way, and even to at the slightest whim to be able to overthrow a leader or a government or to subjugate a people. Sometimes that is in them. They have become drunk off what they were and the power and the influence that they used to have. And this is one of the greatest stumbling blocks and roadblocks to the empire. This will help with its downfall. Don't you see how it's alienating everybody? Huh? Don't you see that? I want to show you some of the hypocrisy of the nation, of the United States, okay? And the West. And we're just going to talk. I'm not even reading articles. We're just going to go off just what we see. When America thought China was helping, listen to me good. Russia is a part of the BRICS nations, right? It's the R in the BRICS. China is the C in the BRICS. That's an organization, right? The two founding members of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization are who? The Chinese and what? The Russians. Am I right? Right? Are they not neighbors and share a huge border? Right? We see America trying to destabilize China with Japan and South Korea and the Philippines. And when America thought that China may help arm Russia, it was an outrage. The US, the UK, France, it was an outrage. The European Union said, we must speak boldly to China and let them know the consequences of their arming Russia. All while openly stating that they will continue to arm Ukraine with everything that it needs to fight against Russia. That's not hypocrisy. Okay, let's look at Iran. America has passed multiple emergency budgets for Israel to openly arm Israel. But they're saying that they are adamantly against Russia selling the Su-35 warplanes to Iran. This is an outrage, and it is a violation of international law. the nation that is violating international law every day is talking about that is a violation of international law. Make that make sense? And how is it that the UK, France, and the US have a right to arm nations that they deem are in their national interest, but no other nation has that same right? Russia doesn't have a right to help arm Iran. Iran doesn't have a right to sell drones to Russia. China doesn't have a right, even though it is a BRICS partner and a Shanghai Cooperation Organization partner, and it is becoming Russia's largest trading partner, and it shares thousands of kilometers of border area with Russia, but it has no right for that. But America is the largest arms supplier in the world, and she has a right for that. That's not hypocrisy. That's that exceptionalism. I can see everything wrong with what you're doing, but how dare you critique me on what I'm doing? Because I'm the empire. You do as I say and not as I do. Right? Let's see. Mr. Carter's in the building. Shout out. He says, don't forget about labs all over the world. Let's see. Man, this thing shot up. It shot up. I'm trying to get it back down. Hold on. Man. Mr. Carter, I'm sorry. It went up too fast for me, okay? I'm sorry. And my mouse is acting crazy where it's like it doesn't want me to roll it back down. Let's see. Medi says they approved a level 4 bio lab in the middle of Boston a few years ago. Now, see, Medi, I didn't even know that. I didn't even know it. I didn't know that. You learn something every day. Let's go further. It says, Mr. Carter says, we are not a democracy. We are supposed to be a republic with democratic values. The Bill of Rights and Constitution is really only about 47 pages together. Well, that shows you the hypocrisy of this nation. That shows you how the people who are in the bowels and in the halls of power disregard everything that they say they stand for. Again, that goes back to what I tell you about the veterans and how sometimes you hear me get wrapped up about that. How is it that you can find appropriation for Ukraine and you can find appropriation for Colombia and you can find money to appropriate to Israel, and it's vets who have to wait in line for treatment? It's vets who have to choose between medical bills and rent or mortgage or car notes or food. And at the same time, you hear these people who are passing these appropriation bills for war all around the world and are openly and willfully ignoring the vets, right? Support the troops. I'm patriotic. I'm pro-American. That's what they do. Hypocrisy. Hypocrisy. Let's go a little further. Let me see if I can see. Mr. Carter said, I didn't, yeah. He says this right here. We had a whole gay parade in Argentina this year, I think. They drank the Kool-Aid. It was spiked too. Spiked with craziness. You know, once you go down that line, once you go down that street there, and I'm not denigrating anybody's, choice of what they want, but I'm just being a realist. Once you go down that line of thinking, and once you go down that pathway of what Mr. Carter has just said that Argentina goes down, it's a slippery slope. It's a slippery slope. And you lose yourself. You lose yourself. And notice this. I want to bring this home, okay? Man, come on. This is tripping. Anyway, I want to bring this home. America claims to be the most Christianized nation in the world, right? Claims to be. I'm not going to put that on the back of people who truly believe in Christ and truly follow Jesus. I'm not going to put that on their backs, you know. But America, the leadership, and these organizations and these think tanks and all of these major so-called churches, you know, the mega churches and stuff, they claim to be the most Christianized nation on earth. And then I stop and I think and I say, hold on. Do they ever sit back when they look at the policy and say, hey, instead of me going off what I want it to be, since I say I follow Christ, let me measure these policies before they get passed and say, would Christ do that? Would Christ go and kill off people and steal their resources? Did he do that? No. Did he occupy other people? No. Will he arm other people to bomb children and disable? No. Have you noticed everything that the Bible says thou shalt not do? America is pushing it. Gay rights, homosexual lifestyle, everything. And then they want you to believe that they are the ones following Jesus. Man, if you don't get out of here with this madness, stop this. You know, I'm not going to allow them or you or anybody else to use that holy man's name with foolishness, to attach foolishness to Jesus. That ain't happening. Not on this platform. Not on real Muslims, real Christians, love Jesus. And I'm not going to let y'all denigrate his greatness by attaching foolishness to that. That ain't happening. YouTube, you can deplatform me. I will not be a part of that. Because I fear God. And that's not saying I have something against gay people. I don't. But I'm saying how on the one hand can you say that you are the most Christianized nation on the planet and you do everything which is the antithesis of what Jesus told you to do? How am I to follow you? If I'm following you, guess where I'm following you? To hell. I don't want that. I don't want that. See, people won't come to you real like this because they're scared they're going to offend their followers. Their money gets cut off. Man, I don't care nothing about that. I was broke before. There was a time I didn't have anything. Money don't rule me. It's about principles, morals, ethics. And even if it was just one person listening, if it offended everybody else and one person listening, it was worth it. So long as I know that God's not offended. You know? Everybody, you know, y'all got to excuse me. When it comes to stuff like that, it touches some of me because I'm tired of these people shielding their foolishness with the righteous people of God. Whether it's some of the Arabs in the Middle East attaching foolishness to Prophet Muhammad, or whether it's some of the Jews attaching some foolishness to Elijah and Moses, or whether it's the Christians, so-called, attaching foolishness to Jesus. It's madness, and I'm going to call it out. Well, Betty said something. Hold on one second. Flying Crocodile is in the building. Let's see. I'm missing something. This thing is jumping, so I'm missing something. Hold on, let me see. Flying Crocodile, I missed part of your comment, so I can't put it up because I don't understand it. Let's see. Okay. I see. Flying Crocodile said Russia did respond by taking out some of the decision-making centers with 9 generals and dozens of NATO officers. And yeah, I know about that, but check this out. That was on Ukrainian soil. Belgorod is Russian soil. The weapons that were used were supplied by NATO nations. They were manufactured in the Czech Republic. And they were openly given to them to do what they did. It's one thing to hidden. You've been hidden in Ukraine for the longest. Has that stopped or slowed down the empire? Nope. The empires continue because they're losing. So they're lashing out. So sometimes you got to confront the bully and suck him in his mouth. And whatever is to happen, like the scriptures say, and like the Beatles say, let it be. But you cannot always cower or just sit back and just let them have their way with killing your citizens. Because the ultimate goal of any leader or president is the protection of the national territory and sovereignty of his nation and the well-being of his people. And yes, you're fighting them on Ukrainian soil, and that would be all fine and dandy if the war was confined to Ukrainian soil. But the West is pushing it into Russian soil. You see? So guess what? I'm just saying, as thou hast done, so shall it be done unto thee. Yeah. See, let me tell y'all something. Okay, let's look at Kim Jong-un, the leader of the People's Democratic Republic of Korea. I think it's that. The DPRK, the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, the DPRK, North Korea. Okay. When the United States provoked North Korea and they antagonized North Korea, right? And then the leadership, be it Kim Jong-un, his sister, or the military or the political leadership of North Korea, if they say, hey, if you do X, Y, and Z over here, we're going to meet that with the same kind of response. When America, look what happened when a year or two ago, when America and North and South Korea were doing war games in the close to the disputed waters between the Koreas, North Korea shot at them because they told them not to do it. When America said that they were going to down North Korea's satellite that they sent up into space a couple of weeks ago, Kim Jong-un personally said, you do it then. So you do it then and see what happens. Shoot it down, and we're going to call that a declaration of war. And everything from a declaration of war will follow. Now, I'm going to ask you this. Did the U.S. and the South Korean military escalate when the North shot at those ships that was trespassing that water? No. Why? Because Kim Jong-un had already given them pre-warning of what to expect if they did it. Did they shoot down a satellite, as they said they would do? No. Why? Because Kim Jong-un had made it clear of the repercussions of what would follow. And they look at his track record of when he tells you something, he follows through on what he tells you. So they push him, but they push him only up to a certain point. That's what I'm saying. Because they know he'll smack him in the mouth, even if it means war. And that's all I'm saying too. Sometimes to prevent war, you got to confront the bully head on. Or else, think about this. They'll say, well, if Russia confronts, NATO could invoke Article 5 and then there can be a war. And it's a war right now. We know that Russia's military industrial complex is outperforming all the United States and the entire European structure together. We know that Russia is defanging and demilitarizing NATO. We know, according to their own estimates, that Russian forces, and this was years ago, so just imagine how quick it would be now and how devastating it would be for NATO, that Russia would overrun all of NATO's forces in Eastern Europe in a matter of 72 hours. So do you believe that they would escalate knowing that Russia has escalatory dominance in every theater of war on the continent? Well, you say, well, it might. Well, hey, might. But listen, you can't continue to allow your territory to be hit, your citizens to be killed, your buildings to be destroyed, your infrastructure to be hurt, damaged. You can't. No, I don't care if it is on the outskirts of it. You can't do that, because after a while, you give a little room for dissatisfaction, and then now you're dealing with a whole nother monster within your own political system. You understand? Let's see. My screen went off. Hold on. What the? Okay, man, StreamYard. It's all good, StreamYard. I'm not mad at y'all. Let's see. Americans are not being told this. No one is asking if active duty members have been killed in Ukraine since February 22nd, 2022. Now check this out. Russia hit some Patriot systems, right? Okay. Took out some Patriot systems, and they've been doing that. These are U.S. systems, right? And they've been doing that for over the duration of a while, taking out Western air defense systems. Now, here's the kicker. It takes months to years to be trained on those advanced systems and to be proficient in them. So, if that is the case, who are the people manning these air defense systems? And we know for a fact that Russian Kinzhals have been taking them out left and right. So if they are US, UK, or NATO soldiers, of course they've lost people. We know they're not Ukrainians because they haven't been trained in them well enough to be proficient in air defense on the Patriots and the THAAD systems and stuff like that. So, of course, and what the United States does when these people are killed, like something that took place last year. I think it was last year. We got an article. You can go back into the archives on Patreon. The Iranians kept warning the Iraqis, the U.S. and the UK, and the French to a lesser extent, and the Israelis about those hit and run things that were taking place in Iran, the area bordering Iraq. And so the Revolutionary Guard deployed heavy weapons there. And they kept warning, they said, now listen, if you continue to do it, and they went one more time, I think it was like 3 or 4 times in all, to the Iraqi government and told them, hey, you better tell your guests here that if they continue to flaunt our borders, we will retaliate. And so the United States, the UK, the French, and the Israelis, they ignored them. They were there training Kurds, right? And so they were about to do a hit, a cross-border hit in Iran. And Iran's intelligence had been monitoring the whole thing. Iran lobbed so many missiles over there. They took out a military base and they took out a neighborhood that housed Mossad and U.S. and French and UK, either intelligence officers or special forces. Took them out. And it wasn't reported. And then what was told to me is that those people, after they looked through the rubble, because they decimated that area where those people worked, decimated it. As they were pulling bodies out, they were flying them back to Ramstein, Germany. Some made it, some died. But what was told me that some of the body count are skewed because something that happened in the United States will say, well, 3 people died in a plane crash, or some people went missing over here. This is how they do that body count. Now, I'm not saying that's for sure. I'm telling you what somebody told me. Okay. And when I put it in the article, nobody ever refuted it. Okay. And so they'll say something like, there were drills in Arizona and X, Y, and Z, 3 planes collided or went down, or whatever. That's so, and then they'll say there were 2 soldiers in each plane, and these things hit a building that housed this, that we had about 20 or 40 soldiers working there. That's how they hide the body count from over into these wars that they continue to wage. That's how they do it. That's what was told to me. Now, if it's true, it's true. If it's not, it's not. That's what was told to me. Okay. Let's go further. It says Russia, incognito says Russia responded by stepping up bombing of Ukraine infrastructure. Anything more could lead to escalation, which is what the West wants. I don't think, listen, I hear that a lot. I hear that the West wants escalation. I think the West want to escalate because they feel that Russia won't. And to give more credence to my point of view is that if you Google this, I don't know the key words to this, but and so I'm gonna paraphrase some of this. At the beginning of this war, Mali or whatever, and his crew, they kept warning the Western leadership that they fear Russian escalation and Russian retaliation against NATO countries. Absolutely. And they said Russia absolutely has the advantage if they were to do so. Okay, Google this, what I'm saying, okay? But Russia continued to allow the United States and the Great Britain to attack bridges and to do this and do that and assassinate this. And guess what happened? Guess what was the conclusion of Milley and the leadership, the military leadership after months and months and months of the West escalating and Russia not responding in kind? Guess what their conclusion was? Google this if you think I'm lying. We no longer fear Russian escalation. That's what the conclusion of Milley and the war brass came to when Russia didn't respond like they thought. They thought Russia would hit NATO territory, and they were fearful of that. They thought that Russia would start striking military bases, as Medvedev said they would do. But when those things went unanswered and Russia was just keeping it confined to Ukraine, Milley and the military brass came up to the conclusion that they no longer fear military escalation between the U.S. and Russia because they don't fear that Russia will strike out. I didn't make that up. Google what I'm saying. So listen to me good. Say Russia fears military escalation. Let's give it a viewpoint from you, incognito, okay? Say Russia fears. How long are you going to let them do this to you? You know, in a fight, in a street fight, sometimes when you're confronting the bully, you fear it. So you try to talk your way out of it, and you see the bully is not listening to anything you're saying. The bully continues to be belligerent and overbearing. And so sometimes you go into a mode of fight or flight. And then you have to confront the bully. Regardless of the outcome, you have to confront him. He just sucked you in your nose in front of your daughter, in front of your wife, in front of your mother. So if it's going to be an escalation, the escalation would be on the part of the West. And there will be an escalation when they fight, though. Okay? But that's a different subject. But I'm talking about this comment specifically. Let me see if I can pull this up real quick. Hold on one second. All right, let's see some. Hold on one second. Let me see if I can pull it up. I'm trying to figure out the words that to use to find that, in which, because I know it was on Sputnik and I know it was on RT. TASS has something on it, a Russian outlet, but I'm trying to figure out. Let's see. All right. Okay, hold on. I can't put it up right now. In Ukraine, over Ukraine. See if that's the right word. I think I put in a 2-minute big words or whatever. But go Google this because I think it's you had to put in General Miley's name, okay? And they came to the conclusion that they know at first they feared. That's why, listen, that's why at the beginning you would hear Joe Biden and the rest of them say, well, we fear an escalation of war. If we deliver tanks, then we'll be in World War III situation. If we deliver HIMARS, we'll do that, this, and this. If we deliver anti-tank missiles, blah, blah, blah. And at each stage, when they say, well, we won't do it. And then they say one of the nations in NATO did it. And Russia didn't respond. Guess what happened? And they kept escalating. They no longer feared a response from Russia. And that's why I said Russia's to blame for some of this stuff. Yeah, Incognito says, so since Belgorod didn't provoke a major response, maybe they then decide to bomb the Iran funeral. These people are desperate to stay in power, and the Trump train coming. Hey, Incognito, you better stop saying that. YouTube will ban you. Well, yeah, they're gonna keep doing what they're doing again, but Iran is gonna be forced to respond. I'm not talking about this. I'm saying the killing of the generals and of the IRGC. That wasn't the first time. A few months ago, Israel bombed an area that had a general, I think a colonel or a general there. And Iran almost took military response, had a military response. I'm talking about to greater Israel, Israel occupied Palestine. Iran almost retaliated with those missiles, right? And they were talked down from it. They cannot continue to allow the killing accidentally or on purpose of their generals, and then Israel goes into Lebanon and blows up a neighborhood. And nobody's screaming about this. All you hear on the news is about Russia and Ukraine. Israel went into Lebanon, sent a drone in there, didn't care if children were there or not, to kill one person or two people. Took out a neighborhood. These are crimes against humanity. And then all America can say is Russia's killing civilians. Go figure. Go figure. Just go figure. Incognito says, I bless the rains down in Africa. Yeah, total. Let's see. Medi says, Rashid, the Russians sent at least 4 hypersonic missiles into Ukraine. Yes, they did. Yes, they did. Yes, they did. But sooner or later, and I think America has made this decision that they can sometimes take the losses on Ukrainian soil. Right? But how will they take it if Russia lashes out? Because they have the justification under international law. They are allowed to strike those nations that are supplying the weapons because they have become a party to the war. America, listen, this is not something a secret. America and all of the NATO nations continue to say this, that they're doing this purposely, and they cannot allow Russia to win. But I thought you weren't a party to the war. So what does it matter to you? If I'm not interested in a boxing match, I don't care who's fighting or who wins. Unless I got money on it. I don't bet, but unless I got money on it. Unless I got an invested interest in it. So you're telling me that you can't allow, first of all, you don't have the wherewithal to stop Russia. Second of all, you're telling me that you can allow Russia to win because it's in your national interest not to. So you're telling me that you are a party to the war. So now by international law, I have the right to bomb, and I'm not saying that they should do this. YouTube, listen to me. I'm not advocating war or violence. I'm just saying we're using examples because we're talking about international law. So, and over on Rumble, shout out to Rumble for not censoring me. Shout out to Odyssey for not censoring me. All right. Shout out to Twitter also. if you're looking over on Twitter. So, according to international law, I have the right to defend myself against all assailants, not just one, all of them. Right? And if Russia so chose to exercise that right, it would be well within the law. That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying go out there and strike. I'm saying you have to warn. Listen, if you want my opinion of what should be done, let me tell you something. Let me be just totally honest with you, because it wouldn't have even gotten this far. I would have said what I meant and meant what I said. First of all, back in 2014, I know Russia's economy was not as strong as it is today. All right. But the results would have been the same with the sanctions. Vladimir Putin, they should not have stopped the rebels in Donbass from going to Kiev. That was a strategic mistake. Think about all of the lives that were lost right now because they wanted to, the United States, France, Germany, and all of them conned the Russian leadership so that they can have a cessation of violence, right? So that the United States and NATO can build up Ukraine to be the most powerful military in Europe, so that it can eventually go and fight Russia. So think about had Vladimir Putin and his leadership not stopped the Donbass militias because they were on their way, they had defeated the Ukrainian armed forces. Go back and look at it. And that's when Germany, there's Merkel, she was the chancellor of Germany. You had Hollande, and you had not Macron afterwards. You had the British Cameron. I think that was Cameron. I believe it was. I could be wrong. The former British Prime Minister. I think it was Cameron. And you had the U.S. president. All of them worked together to buy time so that eventually the war could break out on a major scale. If Russia had not intervened with the rebels, Russia would not be dealing with this cancer that has infected the majority of Ukraine right now. They could have cut it off long before it started, and it would have been so many lives saved. So if you ask me, well, right now we see a war, what would you do to end the war? First of all, I would send a stern message to all parties involved. I would send a message to Berlin, Paris, London, Washington, D.C., and Brussels. And I would tell them, listen, let's be men and women about this. This is an existential threat to me and my nation. There's no way I will allow you to arm Ukraine, put bases in Ukraine, to have Ukraine as part of NATO. Now, you can have the bluster in your news and tell what you're going to do. But this, to avoid a direct conflict with us, we're asking you, we're not demanding, we're asking you, for the sake of international peace and stability, to stop arming. If you continue to arm them, and those arms start reaching our borders, then we will be forced to militarily confront you. Because I'm not going to allow you to supply them weapons to kill my citizens and my troops. Hell, we might as well have a brew fall out, bro. We might as well just go and do it. You know? Hold on 1 second, everybody. Hold on 1 second. All right. Hold on. Let me see. I'm sorry, everybody. That was my daughter. She was calling me on her break. Yeah. She was saying, I just want to hear your voice, Dad. So that was her, and I was asking her what time that she get off. So, but anyway, yeah. Because listen, let's be real. We're men and women about this. We have to be real about this, and we have to address it. If you don't grab this thing and deal with it face to face, it metastasizes. As with any disease, as with anything. If you eat and eat and eat, and 5 years from now you look at yourself and you're 800 pounds, it didn't happen overnight. It happened over years. If they say, hey, we think you need to come in, we found polyps on you, these are precancerous, let us remove these things, and you say, nah, I'm good. And 5 years later, you're stage 4 cancer. You were warned. It didn't happen overnight. It happened over years. You refused to deal with it. And now it's life-threatening. Now, so that's all I'm saying to you all. Let's see. Random is in the bird. You know I can't say it. Random Zerg. Random Zerg. I'm sorry. You know I mess it up all the time. That's why I say random Z. Shout out. Happy New Year's, and I love you back. That's it. Charles Stewart. You're making good sense, Red Pill. Thank you so much, Charles. That's all I'm saying. My God, Naeem is in the building. Naeem88 is in the building. All I'm saying is sometimes we have to use common sense. That's all. But because, listen, I listen to the alternative media, and I hear them addressing stuff, and a lot of them are making a lot of good points, but then certain things get left out, and some things don't get addressed or thoroughly addressed, and I'm like, huh? Why did you not say this? Why did you not? Because it's common sense. And Charles says, he says, you're making good sense, Red Pill, more so than most white men. This is a white guy talking, so I'm not saying that. I'm putting his comments up, okay? Matter of fact, let me see if I can highlight so you'll see what I'm saying. Come on. This thing is tripping. My mouse. Ugh. These things aren't worth nothing. I just bought these like right before the show. And then the second part is this. Now we'll go to my guy. He said, Mr. Carter, I just heard about oil, gas, and I believe some form of meteorite that's exclusively there in Haiti, as well as lithium, I believe. Hey, not just that. They did a study when Aristide was president. Jean Aristide. Some of you who are familiar with geopolitics know who I'm talking about. He is the most popular politician in the history of Haiti, period. Jean Aristide. He was so popular that, and he wanted to invest in Haiti and stop making it a dependency and make it a viable, independent nation and use the resources. And he invited Western companies to come there, but he told them, listen, here's the law when you come. You're not going to get this 60-40 deal that you give those other countries. We want the majority. We want to be able to verify, and we want to be able to use those funds to reinvest in education, infrastructure, and job building and industry. That's what he wanted. Jean Aristide, go Google this stuff I'm talking to you about. I believe it was under President Clinton, if I'm not mistaken. President Clinton. It could have been the president. I think it was Clinton. I could be wrong with the president. But they kidnapped Aristide, a sitting president, head of state. They kidnapped him and forced him out of office. And they held him hostage. Listen to me good. I'm telling you how the West works. Some of you are not privy to this, but it is true. Jean Aristide was held hostage by the United States, and he was forced to sign a letter of understanding and acknowledgement that he was no longer to be a part of Haiti's politics for X amount of decades or years. And he knew that if he participated in that, the outcome may be assassination. This is under the watch of the United States. He wanted to invest the resources of Haiti into Haiti. The U.S. would not allow that because, one of the main reasons they wouldn't allow it, because one of the things that he told the Western leaders is that Haiti has to stop being the epicenter of the drug trade from east to west and from west to east. You know that? And that's how the CIA makes its off books money. And that's why they want it chaotic in Haiti, because they transfer some of the opium to Haiti and over to the west. And they transfer some of the cocaine from South America over into Haiti, then distribute it all around the world. And that's how the MI6 or MI5, the CIA, the French intelligence, that's how they make their money on the side. And this was a no-no. He said, you have to stop that and let us tap the resources. They did a study and found that Haiti was super rich in precious metals, gas, oil, and rare earth. And he demanded that if the Western companies come in, they cannot get majority stakes. They have to play by the rules, and the majority of the wealth go to the Haitian people. And this was a no-no with the West. If you think I'm lying, go look it up. And I want to add, and the kidnapping came from the most democratized nation on the planet, the United States. Let's not forget that, okay? So that's why they want Haiti as a breadbasket or a basket case. And that's why they have it trumpeted or warlords and gangs and all of this stuff. Where they get the weapons from? It's the same if you look at Africa and Latin America and Asia. You see the French, their vestige, their leftover colonialism. They'll back a group. The British will back a group. The United States will back a group. The Dutch will back a group. But all of these Western nations are at the table laughing as they're backing the groups. All of the, or most of the resources and the money comes to them. And they're laughing about what's plaguing those people. And then they go before the cameras. We've got to stop the violence and the drugs, and we've got to get over this corrupt politics and put a leader who's not corrupt in it. You thrive off those corrupt leaders that you put in the power. But it's not acceptable to say that in front of the camera, so you got to pretend like you're holier than thou, and that only Western leaders are not corrupt, and only Western governments are built for democracy and built to govern themselves. Everybody else, as Joseph Borrell said, is what? The garden, meaning savages. That's what he meant. He said the jungle, meaning savages. That's what he's talking about. Isn't that crazy? I'm telling you now. It's crazy. Man, I can't believe I've been on here this long. Whoa. The time is going by so fast. Yes, it is. The time is going by so fast. Let me see something real quick. I just got to play this again. Okay, I got to play this one again.
Yes, Europe is a garden. We have built a garden. Everything works. It's the best combination of political freedom, economic prosperity, and social cohesion that the humankind has been able to build. There's three things together. And here Bruges is maybe the good representation of beautiful things, intellectual life, well-being. The rest of the world, and you know very well, Federica, is not exactly a garden. The rest of the world, most of the rest of the world is a jungle. And the jungle could invade the garden. And the gardeners should take care of it.
It's just incredulous. It's unbelievable. He says the jungle will invade the garden. Now I want to, for a minute, before we go off there, just let us push aside all that we think we know, all that we want to know, and just listen to this. His statement says the jungle may invade the garden. Now, I know it's people from Europe that are watching this show. How many bases does any African nation have there? Huh? Can you name how many? I want to ask Mr. Joseph Burrell, how many military bases does the Latin or Central American nation have in the Garden? How many Asian nations have a military base in the Garden? I'm asking. So now we talked about the Middle East. How many Middle Eastern nations have a base in the Garden? Because remember, Rome is supposed to be the head of Christianity. All right? I said that for a reason. I want to show you something. Again, we go on to hypocrisy. Think about the outcry and the uproar of the Western world if a Muslim nation had a base 20 miles from the Vatican. I'm asking, I'm for a minute, let's just do this for a minute, okay? So that we can see outside the box. Do you know the outrage that the West would have if they found out that not only did a Muslim nation have a military base 20 miles from the Vatican, but they also had a military base about 10 or 15 miles from their second holiest city? Now let's go back to what Mr. Burrell says. The gardeners must be aware, because or else the jungle will invade the garden. Now let's flip this around. Do you know that in Islam, the three holiest places is Mecca, Medina, and Jerusalem? The three holiest places. Do you know that America has a base in occupied Palestine? Yes, she does. Do you know that America has a military base close to Medina? Do you know that America has a base 20 some odd miles from Mecca? There's no outcry from the West. But it's the jungle that is invading the garden. Do you know that almost all colonial nations still have some vestige of colonial bases or training posts in Africa? You know that? Do you know that France is still occupying an island in the Asia Pacific, in the Indian Ocean? The British are still occupying territory in the Indian Ocean. Do you know that? Do you know that the British are still holding on to the Malvinas Islands? What do they call them? What does the British call them? The what islands they call them in English? But the proper name is the Malvinas Islands. What are they? The Falklands, the Falkland Islands. That's what they call them in the West. But they're the Malvinas Islands. You know, the British still, and they say that that's British territory. It's a few miles off the coast of Argentina. Do you know France has it's an island off Africa. It's an African island. Do you know France refuses to remove their French colonial bases and police stations off that island, and they are deporting the Aboriginal people from the island, and they say that's European territory? You know that? If you don't know that, go to my channel, become a channel member. It was a 5-part series. Matter of fact, let me show you. Let me see if I can go to it real quick, and I'll tell you the name of that series in just a second. All right. All right. Let's see. Give me 1 second, and you can see. You'll see the videos too. I have the clips and everything. Okay. This is old. Let's see. Playlist. Let me go here. Hold on 1 second. I don't want this to start playing. So give me a second. I had to pause it real quick. It is a 5-part series where I attack a whole bunch of things that the Western media and the alternative media refuses to address, okay? And we deal with nothing but facts, okay? So this, where is it? Right? There it is. It's called The winds of change are blowing against Western hegemony. It's a 5-part series. I think it's each video is roughly 25 minutes. Some of them are 35 minutes. It's a 5-part series on that. Talk about the French, and they're violently, listen to me good, they're not just removing, they are violently removing the original people, the indigenous people from an African island, and saying that it is European territory. Europe is over there. It is literally off the coast of Africa like this. But Joseph Pharrell says the jungle is invading the garden. Man, I'm telling you, now you see why I say bizarre world. This is why it is so important to have a platform like this. This is why it's so important to have a show like this, so that we can cut through all of the fog of lies and misdirection and deceit, and we can go straight into it and address the issues. And sometimes there'll be troubling issues. Sometimes you might not even agree with me on a certain thing. But don't take it to heart because of the passion. And remember that when I tell you something, I always have proof to back it up, whether we agree or not. Okay? Because in the end, the only thing that will stand is truth. Truth will stand tall, and falsehood will be made to vanish. As a matter of fact, you see the whole world order falling out right now because it's corrupt, it's deceitful, it's arrogant, colonialist, fascist, racist. All of those things are not inherent to the very nature of creation. So they must be removed. They're a virus. It's a virus to the natural order of things. And so science teaches us that whenever there's an unnatural thing introduced into a natural order, either the natural removes the unnatural or both die. Either the natural removes the unnatural or they both die. That's why the old world of corruption and business as usual and lies and deceit and division is on its way out. As a matter of fact, it has 20 feet and 19 of them are out the door already. 19 of them are out the door. And the 1 foot that's in there is doing a stanky leg to try to stay in as something that we should look at. This world is quickly on its way out. On that note, I'd like to thank each and every one of you all for giving me 2 hours of your day. 2 hours that you didn't have to give me, but you decided to give me. And for that, I am truly humbled and thankful. Know that I love you with all my heart if you love truth. But know that the true and living God, he will always love you better. Until we next speak again, stay strong, stay true, but above all things, stay righteous. Hey, mama, your baby boy loves you more than life. Deuces, everybody. Thank you all for joining me. We are.